getting a little older and trying to sit down cross-legged and then trying to stand up again afterwards can be a little bit challenging. Anyway, this is of course the great and glorious, soon to be famous One Day Nick Dutch back again. I'll bring out the old golfing cap which I wore previously in some of my younger videos. Still have the same hat, it still looks good. Okay, this is of course the start of Halloween Advent, because if Christmas has got an Advent, then Halloween should have one as well. Within the Christian Advent, it kind of like starts either at the 1st of December or it starts somewhere in the middle of November, for those of you who are following the Celtic Christian path. So I don't see why we shouldn't start Halloween Advent now. And of course, my favourite little green skull is sitting down and ready and waiting for me to use that as a prop for when I'm doing some of the various works of weirdness which will be happening around about the Halloween time. But not all of you just want to sit down and watch me do a Ouija board seance, and you don't just want me to just do tarot readings and demonstrate how tarot works and what a tarot reading will actually look like and be like, because obviously tarot is my job, so therefore that's like one of the things I'm truly excited about. But you also want to know more about perspectives of attempting to use all of this weird supernatural stuff for the purposes of creating results. There is a whole history of that on this YouTube channel. For those of you who are new subscribers, and there are a few of you, I know that there are, go to my channel name, go to my channel page, use the search facility which is on the right hand side, just carry on going to the right, and type in nearly anything there, and there will be something for you to watch which will be related to whatever you're interested in at this present point in time. Okay, you know, I'm talking about these things from my point of view, so you may have to look at other sources as well. But let's start talking about something which has been on my mind for a while, and that is the subject of healing. This is a very difficult and contentious subject. This one particular author suggests that you can just visualize a person getting well, and that becomes part of the healing somehow. I think that's again a bad use of language, because what occultists are really, really good at is using words badly and providing lots of opportunity for misunderstanding and miscomprehension and to generate beliefs. When I was a young occultist, and you know, this is one of the reasons why I say what I do, I did hang out with lots of people who would make strong statements of how reliable magic seemed to be. This is again because occultists tend to use words badly, and they cannot articulately or intelligently express themselves because they just don't know, to the most part. This is something that Silver Muldoon pointed out in his projection of the astral body, in the fact that there was one time when he did projections around his house where there was numerous mediums and seers of various different types, and none of them could see him, even though he was genuinely out and about in the astral and walking around their bedrooms and stuff. And so he came to the conclusion that these were people who just didn't really have the abilities that they said they did. And of course, within the magical and occult community, it's full of people who claim that they can do various different things, but basically cannot. This is a concern. So let's try and think about what this guy is saying. Let's try and cross-reference some of that with, let's say, what Barbara Ann Brennan has said in her works on spiritual healing, and try and provide some kind of cohesive understanding, and also cross-referencing with, I can't remember the name of the author, but that lady who wrote that book on exorcism that I introduced you guys to a certain number of videos ago, probably, was it a couple of months back? I think it probably was a fair period of time. Firstly, what is visualization and what is actually visualized? From the point of view of Barbara Ann Brennan, she says that the spiritual healer can modify their own energy field in order to perform something. That's what she suggests. But she's also talking about visualization and what is being sent and activating chakras and all kinds of other fun stuff, thus providing a model of how these things operate from the point of view of spiritual healing. So essentially the visualization would have to also be to do with the repair of various different energetic things that the healer had picked up. What the author who wrote about exorcism suggested was that an individual's belief structure or faith or whatever becomes like an operating system, and then that becomes the way in which they end up seeing things at a certain time, which I think makes some sense. So what is the visualization and how is it actually done? Remembering, of course, that healing is a contentious issue and a contentious subject, because all you got to do is look around the pharmacy and you can see how much suffering there is in the world, because there's products out there that people need. So the whole world is full of people who are looking for miracles. I'm not promising a single bloody one of them. Okay, it's wrong to say magic works, but it's also just as wrong from experience's point of view to deny the existence of the forces in question. Alright, because we are human beings, we therefore are an experience of like physical reality. We don't have all of the knowledge and all of the information and all of the experiences at our disposal. We cannot use language that strong. Personal experience has suggested to me that some forms of meditative and prayerful states of being appear to assist the right variety of visualization whereby something can be done. Other forms of experimentation which I have done have suggested that the modification of the energy fields that Barbara Ann Brennan spoke about was a shift in emotion and perception combined with intention and visualization in order to deliver the energy from whichever chakras or centers in the body or whatever higher source the energy was supposed to be coming from. So it's just a question of visualization, intention, and the altered state of consciousness. Which altered state of consciousness? The one which seems to work best appears to be moving towards gamma. Now, the general experiences I had with attempting to create anomalous experiences when I was younger was much more alpha and theta, much more meditative, much more slower brainwave. That in its own right seems to assist with some forms of focused concentration, like the anecdote which I told a while ago of I was using mind machines excessively on the meditation program, and I went out to the pub to see my friends, and I went to shoot pool, and my concentration on the shot was so good that it even dulled my ability to hear what was going on in the room, even though there was lots of chatter going on, because my sensory perception was focused on the shot. So therefore, the practicing of concentration, the practicing of meditation for the purpose of creating singularity of mind appears to be very important for doing something anomalous. But his use of language, the idea of rising the planes, and therefore in meditation focusing on the idea of going up, trying to create that almost vertigo type state of being inside your mind, and maybe even imagining that you're reaching something divine or reaching up to something divine or something else which is mind expanding, appears to be an important part of the process. Going back to what that exorcist lady wrote about, I think that there's some difficulties with how she's explained herself, because in what way can you specifically modify your mind, your thoughts, your feelings or intentions to make sure that when attempting to go up to access, let's say, I know, the Hall of Elders or whatever it is, that you're going to the right place, that your, for want of a better phrase, frequency of state of mind is appropriate for you to actually get to where you're going. And also, how is the rest of your self-development and all of its history being useful in sculpting the mind and the aura and the sense of perception for the purposes of attempting to achieve these things? I'm discussing this with you in a much more in-depth way than any person who's in the occult movement. I'm aware of that. And therefore, maybe, you may struggle with the way in which I'm expressing this. And that's because I'm sitting here as a person who does all this weird stuff for the purposes of trying to find out more about it and trying to understand it. The benefits, the way I see it, of all forms of occultism, all forms of it, is to provide a bit more in terms of human knowledge, human understanding, and maybe human communication, and possibly human well-being as well. Alright, because healing is somehow got an importance. But it's still not quite right for me or anybody to turn around and say that it's just visualization, because then there'll be some delusional people who will be sitting on their backside and just like trying to imagine themselves getting well, and then hey presto being rather upset that they haven't. And that's why we should never ever say magic works. Okay? But we can try and put some of the perspectives and some of the points of view of the occult authors and the spiritual healers together in some manner. Why? Because every single author is an individual who is grasping one tiny part of reality. And because of that, some things which are said and done need to be paid attention to. I mean, we got like 8 billion people in the world right now. Every single one of them, to the most part, okay, has the senses, have the ability to sense the outer world. All right, sight, hearing, vision, tactile sense, whatever. They also have cognition. They also have brains. They also have a visual imagination. And most of them are not working as a professional in the sciences or in medicine. Okay, they're not doing that. Okay, but because things happen in the world that science hasn't yet found out about, or medicine hasn't yet found out about, there will be people experiencing anomalous things. Some of these things move into the world of the alternative in one form or another, but it's still there. All right, the experiences people have had, they're still there. So therefore, I still think that nearly everything which is alternative requires a certain level of study. We are human beings, alright? Therefore, we are, by our nature, somehow connected to whatever the heck it is. Alright, the world of spirit, the world of God, the world of angels, whatever. I don't know. The thing. The universal consciousness. And therefore, we will all, at some point, experience something. But it is just up to a few of us to try and experience more things so that we can hopefully report back and tell you what's been discovered. I mean, the concentration, the variety of concentration, the variety of visualization, the variety of changing your emotionality so that you can attempt to do a healing on someone is pretty intense. It seems to require a lot of energy. When I did a healing on this lady and helped her with her bad back, and she said she felt fire and lightning coming out of my hands, I was quite tired after that. You know, I was using something of me in order to create the change. Obviously what that was, impossible to say. But the fact of the matter is, she did feel the fire and the lightning coming out of my hands. Okay? She felt it. She reported it back to me. What does that mean? Did I cure her of her bad back? Probably not. No. Did I deliver healing energy? Yes. Was it something of a higher nature? I think so. Did it come through me? Yes. Could I repeat it reliably? No. If someone was to put me in a position whereby I had to cure someone using laying on of hands, would I be able to do it? No. I can definitely deliver the energy. People feel it. Sometimes, especially if they're very depleted or very drained, then they will feel it. Therefore, there is a natural force at work here. It's not just placebo, it's not just psychology, it's not just imagination. I mean, I've done experiments with dream telepathy on people, but they didn't even know I was doing it or I was even interested in all these weird things, but yet I asked them what the dream was the next day, and they told me. And it was a dream I created for them. Does it happen reliably? No. I mean, I'd love to give nightmares to the Prime Minister. God, I'd love to. God, I would love to. Crikey. Real, scary nightmares to the Prime Minister. But I doubt whether I'll be able to successfully or reliably do it. And on top of that, if there is lots of positive energy around this person because they've got so many admirers, then it'll be difficult to break through, wouldn't it? a lot of these things that we talk about here, especially what I talk about on this channel, on one side of things is a question of trying to bring together all the various different strains of thought that's been going on in the world about this stuff for years. On another side of things, yes, I want to entertain you, I want you to smile. But I also want you to maintain your curiosity. But also without becoming someone who will say something or use language badly, which will then disturb other people. Think about it. You know, literally go into the pharmacy one day and see how many different preparations there are for how many different ailments. And that's just the pharmacy. Alright? That's not even the doctor's practice. That's not even the hospital beds. That's not even the people on waiting lists. That's not even the people who are relying upon wheelchairs and crutches and mobility scooters and incontinence products and medicines and creams and gels and pharmaceuticals and all this stuff. How much suffering is there in the world? And how unethical is it? And how immoral is it to be so stupid to not think through the effects of the words that you use when you turn around and say magic works? How cold do you have to be? How sick? How mad? How evil? Okay, well that's my bit of soapbox ranting, more or less over and done with. There'll be more coming up. And yes, Halloween is coming. And it's going to be fun. Stay scary. Actually, no, don't. That would be wrong. But, you know, enjoy the video when it comes out. Keep cool.